You may remember, on the first page of the web version of this course, we had a place where we explained the contents of this course were not just for Windows users. Well, each of the underlined phrases invokes a function. Here's the code. Paragraph class equals red bold, a few words for users of, and then underline, on-click equals Mac, parent, Apple Mac computers, and underline. Underline, on-click equals Linux, parent, Linux/Unix, and underline. And on-click equals ZOS, parent, ZOS users, and underline as well. Then, if you click on, say, the Apple Mac computers, you see this. That is, a whole new window pops up in front of the window you were viewing. In this session, we'll see how to do this. The purpose of a pop-up window is to display information on request instead of automatically. If your user is not interested, they can simply ignore the option to display. We start with the window object, which is conceptually clear, a container for a web page, document. Create a new window by using the open method on the window object. This returns a concrete window object, also called a browsing context, into which you can insert a document. So grab the result of this method. Now, in the interest of keeping coding simple, I generally use a variable named W to hold a window object created using this construct. For example, var, W equals window.open, and in parentheses, parameters. Now, the parameter list consists of two positional parameters and a set of keyword parameters that may be specified in any order or omitted. URL. Identify the page to open. Usually leave blank and take the default of about blank, which is just a placeholder anyway. This is the first positional parameter. Think which page or document. Name. Provide a name for the browsing context, the window, from _blank, which means the URL will be loaded into a new window, and this is the default. Or _self. The URL replaces the current page in the current window. Or name, that is a user-chosen name. It must be at least one character. First character must not be _. If a window with this name exists, the contents will be replaced by the page at the URL. If a window with this name does not exist, a new window is created and given this name. This is the second positional parameter. Think which window. The remaining parameters are all keyword and optional. Note, not all keyword parameters are supported by all browsers. The ones here are supported by all the major browsers. Height equals the height of the window in pixels. Left equals the left position of the window on the screen in pixels. Top equals the top position of the window on the screen in pixels. Width equals the width of the window in pixels. Menu bar equals yes or no. Display the menu bar in the window or not. Resizable equals yes or no. Is the user allowed to resize this screen? Scroll bars equals yes or no. Should scroll bars be displayed if the content can't fit in the window? And status equals yes or no. Should a status bar be displayed? Here's an example of creating a window object. Var W equals window.open parent, comma, quote C plus win count plus, comma. Height equals 300, width equals 550, menu bar equals yes, resizable equals yes, scroll bars equals yes, all in quotes. Now this takes the default URL, an unnamed page. I generate a unique window name this way, a literal letter C followed by the current value in the variable win count. Then increment this by 1 for the next window, and that's what the plus plus does. The point of this is to generate a unique name for each invocation. This way, each page will be in its own window, and no window is reused. You might want a different leading literal for each dynamic window you are creating. You might want to reuse a window, just use the same window name. The keyword parameter list must all be on one line, and it must be a quoted string. Within that, the parameters may be in any order. Once you have a window object, then you can create a document object in the window into another variable. I always use D for document. So var D equals w.document. Recall that W is our just created window. Now D is our just established document within that window. To populate the document, you use the document.write method on our new document. So something like this. d.write parent, quote, HTML, quote, d.write parent, quote, head, quote, and so on. So you see, we're writing HTML code into the new document inside the new window. And to finish it, you code d.close, parent. Now, you can put all this in a function to be invoked from an event handler. So the whole script element for this might look like this. Script, var win count equals 0, function courses, parent. And then again in braces, here's our whole function. We define a window, we open one with these parameters, and then we define a document within the window. And then we write into the document HTML, head, link, title, end head, and then the body, and so on. H1, a paragraph, unordered list, several list items, end of the unordered list, end of the body, end of the HTML, close, and there's the closing brace and the end script. And in the body, we might have a paragraph like this. P on click equals courses, so we're invoking the function. And the text of the paragraph is click to see why our courses are the best. And when the user clicks on the paragraph, they will see a window pop up extolling the virtues of our courses. Like this. Here's our new paragraph, and we click on it, and our window pops up. Now, you can position the pop-up window using the left and top parameters of the window.open method. For example, window.open parent, quote, and then the C win count, height equals 300, width equals 550, top equals 180, left equals 320, and all the rest as before. And that might result in this kind of a pop-up, which is perhaps more interesting. Now here's a trick that works for just about every web page. If you place the cursor on a blank spot on the page and right-click, you can choose View Page Source. The wording might vary from browser to browser, and a new tab or page is displayed containing the source code, the HTML for the page. This can be very helpful in both debugging your own code and for seeing how other developers code their HTML. And for those packages that generate HTML on your behalf, you can see what kind of HTML they generate. It's usually not very pretty. In any case, for reasonably complex pages, you may see coding constructs we've not covered in these courses. Don't worry about these at this point in time. All will become clearer in due course. The text generated by document.write statements ends up being a single long line of text. This is okay as far as your browser is concerned. Line breaks in HTML code are ignored in rendering pages anyway. But it makes it hard for people, you for example, to read the generated code. To generate code that is easy to read, you can use write-ln, which stands for write line new, in place of write. This generates new line characters at the end of the specified text. You can have a mix of write and write-ln statements. Quotes can be tricky. The argument to document.write needs to be bounded by quotes. Yet, if the argument needs to also contain quotes, you need to escape these quotes. That is, you need to tell JavaScript that you're including a literal quote, not ending a quoted string. You do this by preceding the quote character with a backward slash, called an escape, to signify that this quote character should escape the role of terminating the current quoted string. For example, to include an event handler in your document.write code, go this way: d.write and in parentheses the single quoted string that you're going to pass on to the page. And in that, onClick equals. Now, the event handler has to have double quotes. So onClick equals double quote this.style.color equals. Now I want to put the color red, but that has to be in single quotes. But the first single quote will terminate the earlier single quote. So I fixed that problem by escaping that single quote and the next single quote. And thus we've taken care of having single quotes misinterpreted. If a document.write is found in a function, when the function is invoked, if you do not have a window.open, then the document.write stream replaces the current page. For example, in our sample quote code, if we did not have the window.open statement and instead started with var d equals document, then the output stream would replace the initial page itself. In this session, we saw how to create a whole new page in a pop-up window using window.open and document.write. You create a new window, var w equals window.open parenthesis URL of the page that you're talking about and the name of the window and a string of params. Create a document in the new window, var d equals w.document. Populate the document using document.write, d.write parenthesis quote whatever text you're putting in. And close the document to get the page rendered in the window, d.close parent. We also mentioned that you can generate code that will replace the current document in the current window. Create a document in the current window, var d equals document. Populate the document using document.write as before, and close the document to get the page rendered in the window, d.close as before. In the next video, we demonstrate creating a pop-up window using an array, all enclosed in a function that takes parameters. See you there.